Coach Brian here with Northwest Elite Spirit, and this is part 4 of developing patience and willpower. And this is just my thoughts on the last video I made. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. And it would be good to go watch the whole series. Don Juan gives a lot of great practical advice, and it's advice that you can easily go out in the world and start practicing right now. So in this part of the conversation, Don Juan is telling Carlos that the things that he thinks are will are really just like personality and like things he likes and doesn't like and aren't actually will. Kind of likes and dislikes are things that you want, but will is at the core of what you really want. And Don Juan says it comes from the belly, and he points to his solar plexus, which is interesting because people who study and practice with the chakras also have an energy point at the solar plexus, and it's said to have to do with will and creativity and some other things. But it's interesting how different belief systems have similar beliefs around how the body system works. And he says, I say it comes from here because one can feel it coming out. And that sounds, a little hippy-dippy, but again, Don Juan is just asking you to look at things another way. And so in practicing this today, I was on a run and I was moving really good and feeling really good. And I remembered, because the feeling came to me, that when I'm running really well and feeling really well with no effort, it's like I'm being pulled forward from my solar plexus, and I can feel it. And I think that is the force that Don Juan is talking about. It's when I'm walking, when I'm running, even if I'm just doing chores and chugging across the yard to get something done, I can feel this force in my solar plexus pulling me forward. And then so I started diving deeper into that, and like, where else is the solar plexus or the gut used in will? And so I was imagining, like, when you're making important life decisions and someone gives you the advice, go with your gut. So your gut is presented with these two paths. One that is towards what you want out of life. The other is away from what you want in your life. And your gut will tell you that. And maybe that's will. Maybe that's your will speaking to you. And with practice, I think we can see this gut instinct or this will all over the place. I shared a blog a couple years back about people, places, and things, and paying attention to how you feel when you go to these people, places, and things. And so with people, when you're around people, pay attention. Does this person lift you up, or do they cut you down? Do they help you focus towards what you want in life, or do they distract you from what you want in life? And when you're around people who are not for you, if you don't ignore it, you feel it in your gut. You have a gut feeling about these people. And it's the same in places. You go into a place and it just makes you feel not right, or it makes you feel great. You feel great there and you're uplifted, one or the other, but your gut will tell you. And it's the same with things. Have you ever accumulated things and then you just still felt empty? Well, if you go out and you actually accomplish your will, you don't feel so empty. So you do things that fill you up rather than leave you empty. And those are all paths that your will give you some indication on which one you should take, in my opinion, and how I'm thinking about this. This stuff is kind of newer to me. I think I read it when I was very young, but I'm reading it again and out here in the world practicing it and sharing it with you guys. So Don Juan has described will kind of as like the senses, but not quite the senses. And Carlos asks how one can perceive with will similar with perceiving with hearing. And I think it's the same. Like when you touch on something, like a decision or a life path, when you touch on it, when your will reaches out to see if it's for you or not, it'll let you know if it is for you or not. And I think it's a will like that. But he goes on to describe that it's also a force, it's not a sense, it's a force that comes from within. And then Don Juan goes into talking about grabbing reality with your senses and how average men can grab with the eyes and the ears and the hands. However, a man with will can use his nose, his ears, his tongue, as well as his will. And I can touch on that too, because I shared with you, and maybe you'll go back and check it out on YouTube, a self-hypnosis for manifesting your dream home. And in this self-hypnosis video, I have you imagine a smell, and I imagine you, like you can hear the birds out here, there's birds in my video, but you can also hear the sound of whatever food it is that you want cooking. And so visualization is a great way to manifest your will. And I think that's what he means by a man with will can grab it with, or a man who is not an average man can also grab the things he wants with his nose, his ears, his tongue, and his will. And again, when we get strong at it, our will is more sensitive and more keen, and so when we touch on something that is or isn't for us, we will know faster and faster until it becomes instinctual and almost non-perceptible, but correct. And Don Juan goes on to describe that when we see something and when we hear something, we believe that it is out there and that it is real. But when we have will, we understand that it is inside of us and it's not as real as we think. So I think a lot of us give in to all these, what's his name? Andrew Tate would call it the Matrix. You have all these rules and regulations and maybe traditions or just things people around you believe that you start to believe, and you start acting within these confines. And when you start expressing your will, like let's say you set yourself a goal and the people around you say you can't do it, and common sense would say you can't do it, and then you use your will and you do it, and you start to see that there are things that people say are real that aren't, and there's things that I believed were real that aren't. So now I'm gonna practice again and again and keep testing those boundaries, testing the boundaries of your will, and bringing your will forward and seeing your will be done. And you get stronger and stronger at that and more confident in it. And Don Juan calls himself a man who can see. And a man who can see is just a person who sees clearly exactly what's going on. And it's a way that he actually kind of caught Carlos's attention. Carlos was introduced to Don Juan, and Carlos was BSing Don. He was trying to BS Don Juan. He was putting on a facade. And he says that Don Juan gave him this look that told him he saw right through him. And he looked at him, and it was like, he looked at him in such a way that he was fascinated by it, that he could see him so clearly, and so he wanted to know more. And that's how their student-teacher relationship began. And Carlos asks if a man who can see, a man who can see clearly, also has will. And Don Juan says one can have will, and may not see. And I think what that means is like, there are some pretty stubborn people among us out there. And maybe, with practice we can see, but while we can't see, we may have this will driving us forward, but we don't see clearly, and so we make a lot of mistakes, and we bump into a lot of things, and we get wrapped up in a lot of things. And I guess that's the way it is with everything you practice. But if you keep at it and keep at it, you start seeing more clearly, and you start making better decisions, and you come closer and closer to manifesting your will and seeing your will be done. And the more we practice, and as we're seeing our will be done, we see more and more clear. We're able to predict more accurately. We're able to act more accurately, and things manifest easier, or maybe not easier, but more clearly. I'm Coach Brian with Northwest Elite Spirit. This has been my thoughts on part 3 of the series, Patience and Willpower. Give us a like, subscribe, comment, share, and as always, practice. Thank you.